And welcome back to the Atlanta Falcons franchise rebuild. Here today is part one of a two-part offseason. In the first part, we will be going over the free agency, the Super Bowl, regression, all of the beginning stages of the offseason. So, in the Super Bowl matchup, it's the Green Bay Packers versus the Cleveland Browns. Both of these two teams are number one seeds. Both of them are probably the two best teams in the league right now. It's going to be a very close game for both teams. And the Super Bowl winner is the Green Bay Packers beating the Cleveland Browns. Let's go check out the score here. Beating them 41-14. Rodgers putting up an MVP-like game, and a very poor effort by the Cleveland Browns. This was really just a... Let's go check out some retirements. The only retirement that we actually had was Mike Remmers. You see Nate Solder. Drew Brees has retired, so we do not have to play against Drew Brees anymore. Trent Williams retired. Was not expecting that. And a name that we do not see on here is Tom Brady. So Brady's coming back. He is 44 years old. We'll see how good he plays. We'll see if he's still on the Buccaneers. I don't even know if he is. So taking a quick look at regression here, we see Ricardo Allen dealt with 11 minus 11, Julio Jones minus 18. Thankfully, his speed really wasn't affected at all, only minus 1. So Julio Jones is still going to be one of our top wide receivers going into this season. James Carpenter, Jake Matthews, not too many, but Matt Ryan got really hit hard, minus 22 points. In this offseason, I am planning on trading away Matt Ryan. We don't need him anymore. It's just time to go to Blake Rivers, and it's time to stick with Blake Rivers for the future. Some other notable names, Okun, Patrick Peterson dealing with regression, but not too much. He went up to superstar development, so not too bad. And Xavier Rhodes, after 10 interceptions this past season, thankfully didn't deal with too much either. He's still, in my opinion, a starting caliber corner in this league, and that's kind of the plan moving forward with him. Now let's take a quick look at the re-signing phase here. We got a lot of interesting players that we may or may not consider to be bringing back here. We're going to start in the back and move our way up. We have about, it looks like $30 million to play with. And we can definitely make a couple moves to give us some more salary relief to bring in new players. As of right now, I am not thinking about bringing back a lot of these players. Only maybe some of the undrafteds, maybe we'll rework on their contracts. But let's start with Taysom Hill. Not going to bring Taysom Hill back. With Troy Moody, he's a player that, I would like to have him back on the roster to continue to develop him. But unfortunately with Madden, you can't have these undrafted contracts, so we'll try to negotiate something small. And he's going to test free agency. Not going to bring him back. Terrence Hopkins, another undrafted kid that I would like to come back. And again, we'll offer him this one-year deal. He's also going to be testing the market. Michael Kendricks, no. I don't think we're going to attempt to bring him back. As of here, right now, I wanted to see how much the franchise tag was. So, at this moment in time, I kind of just decided to let everyone test the market pretty much. Some of these players will probably end up bringing back to the team, but I don't think so. Wayne Gallman, I would love to have him back, but the problem is that there's so many players like Wayne Gallman out in free agency that it doesn't really make too much sense to negotiate with him. Kind of the same thing with Holton Hill. There's a lot of good young corners out there, and I just don't think that we need to prioritize him. Patrick Peterson right now, he's a little too old. Maybe we'll bring him back. Koo, I just think we need a new kicker. I actually do. Everson Griffin, you know, he did his job this year. Same with Marcus Goldson. Russell, he is a player that I am going to try to renegotiate with. We're going to look for a new fourth receiver. We replace Ricardo Allen, and then Hayden Hurst and linebacker. Well, the problem with Hayden Hurst is this. He's 29 years old, and he's just not going to be getting any better. Here are his stats over the last 2 seasons. He was a big focus in our first offensive playthrough, but you know, in year 2, 1 touchdown, only less than 40 receptions. I just don't see the value in bringing him back at this moment in time. Maybe we could do a better job in the draft. There are a couple tight ends that I like, but as of right now, I don't see it. As for this linebacker here for Forrest, I'm thinking about franchising, tagging him, and then trading him, but I don't know just yet. He's a very good player, but let's try to tag him. I think that's probably the best move, unfortunately. So let's not give him this contract. So right here, right now, we are going to be looking to trade away Matt Ryan. He's 37 years old. He's a 73 overall. He's just going to continue to regress and just not really get better. I was talking to Chad about really kind of what his value was, and we kind of came to an agreement, something between a 3rd to a 4th round draft pick. I have 2 teams. Number 1 is the Colts, who had a lot of interest in him. They have Jacoby Brissett at quarterback, and you know, he would kind of be an upgrade there. The other team that was considering him was the Pittsburgh Steelers. So I was starting to look at both the team's draft picks. We were looking at the Colts, and did I really want to get I really was considering mostly a 3rd round pick at this moment in time. And the 91st pick in the draft class, I don't know if that was, you know, good enough. So I was considering maybe throwing in some other draft picks to acquire for him. But eventually I decided to, you know what, let's go to the Pittsburgh Steelers. Let's see where they are at in the draft class, their ranking wise. And I saw that they had the number 2 overall picks. That means they had the 66th pick in the 3rd round, which was definitely more intriguing. We could get a higher draft pick, maybe even use it to trade up and later in the draft class, and that is ultimately the draft pick that we are going to be targeting. And after 2 years, Matt Ryan has been traded to the Pittsburgh Steelers for a 3rd round pick. Pick for player completely makes sense to me. I really thought we got a good draft pick here to be used in this up and coming draft class. And welcome to stage 1 of free agency. We see Jaire Alexander as the number 1 player. We have Odell Beckham Jr. as the number 2 rated player in this draft, in this free agency period. I did also want to say, I didn't show this earlier, we did not franchise tag the linebacker. I messed it up, so we pretty much just let everyone test free agency. Just wanted to let you guys know that was completely my fault. I didn't know if I backed out, it didn't work, but okay, free agency. So the first contract we're going to absolutely target here is Jaire Alexander. We're going to give him this 5-year deal. $50 million. Why not? Or close to $50 million. Actually, no, $90 million. Might as well give him this contract. Excuse me, I was not looking at the numbers. Give him this contract. We get our number one corner. We help this team immediately with him. Now, one position group I was really taking a hard look at was the running backs. I wanted to find a third running back to help this team out, to pretty much either A, replace Wayne Gallman or potentially bring Gallman back. I kind of narrowed it down to 3 running backs. Either re-sign Wayne Gallman, bring in Justin Jackson, or we target a player like a Gus Edwards. I decided to settle on Justin Jackson here. He has a little bit of better speed, and I think he could almost take over the Gallman role. So we're going to offer him a 1-year deal, see if he comes in, and he should immediately help this team out. Another positional group that I was highly considering here was the 4th wide receiver. Over the last 2 seasons, we've dealt with many injuries to the receiving core, and I really wanted to find our next 4th receiver. As well as, we obviously have to replace Hayden Hurst here. We do have a player like David Njoku, a player that I was considering just as much as I was considering Rob Gronkowski, but the problem with Gronk is that he's a 1-year stopgap player, and I just didn't think that it made a lot of sense to bring Gronk in. For Njoku, it's not that he's not a talented player, it's more that, he's going to want big money, and I just didn't feel at this moment in time this team really needed to pay for a top-tier dollar amount to a tight end. I then took a look at Dalton Schultz. He's not as fast as Hayden Hurst, but he can run block, he can catch the football, which is ultimately the reason I decided to offer him a 2-year contract. We're going to try to bring him in here to be able to help this running game, and if, we target a tight end early in the draft, we might. So one player that Chad suggested was Devin Funchess. He's 28 years old, he has solid speed, solid route running, and solid hands. He does obviously have the injury concern, but he's a big-bodied receiver. It's not a ton of money, but for a 4th receiver that can ultimately play either the number 1 receiver or the number 2, I actually felt that it kind of made sense. So instead of offering him a 3-year deal or a 1-year deal, instead of offering him a multi-year deal, I decided to go with a 1-year deal, trying to bring him in, 2-year deal. I actually don't know what I'm doing. I decided to go with a 2-year deal, trying to bring him in here just to hopefully help this team out in any sort of way we possibly can. So it's a 2-year deal worth about $9 million. So it's not too bad. It's a little under $5 million a year. Ultimately, I think Devin Funchess, if he comes to this team. And then while I was looking through trying to find some depth players, I actually found John Franklin Myers, who is a very good finesse rusher, who is very strong, good pass rushing moves, and looks like he can stay healthy. And he intrigued me. I knew that we could move off of Dante Fowler at really any point during this offseason. And I looked at John and I pretty much said to myself that, he could come in here and not just be an outstanding edge rusher for the future, but also play in the interior because of that great strength. And he still has good speed, good enough speed for a defensive end, defensive tackle if needed, as well as he has good pass rushing moves. So I definitely was intrigued. I did not want this to be a 3-year deal. I wanted this to be a 5-year deal. So I decided to settle on giving him a 5-year deal, right around $50 million. I felt that he could become something very good for this team. So we're going to offer him this contract here, 5 years, about $50 million, and he could become our next. So after stage 1, these are all the moves that I was going to be trying to make, bringing in John, Jairi, and others. So let's go to move to stage 2 and see if we can bring any of these players in, if we have any new ones, or if we don't. So we got John. You guys see down below, that's 1. So we did get John, we got Devin Funchess, and we got Jairi Alexandra. So we got 2 very important players for the defense, and a number 4 wide receiver. Jairi is now our best player on the team. John is now a top tier playmaker. Last year, 7 sacks for the New York Jets. Overall, I was so happy getting these 2 players to help out this defense. This is kind of exactly what my plan was, to focus on the defense during free agency, and then in the draft, really kind of put a little bit more time and effort into the offense. Now, this does make a Dante Fowler a little bit of expendable. He's right now making about $19 million. If we cut him or trade him, we would save about 15. So over the last 2 years, he's put up 2 consistent years, 16 sacks, excuse me. But overall, I didn't know what I should do with Dante. I asked chat, they kind of sat there and said maybe we should keep him around, maybe for a trade later down the road. So ultimately, that's what I ended up doing with the Dante Fowler. And of course, we can't forget about Jairi. We get our number 1 corner with great speed, great coverage abilities. We now have our number 1 guy on the opposite side of AJ Terrell for the next 5 years. I'm so happy with that decision. It really boosts our corner situation up, and overall, I was really... Going back to free agency, we saw that we're looking at some players that were signed to other teams. The Jets were very, very active in this free agency period. Richard Sherman he's staying as a Raider. He was already a Raider beforehand. Gronk is going to the Colts. Brandon Graham also going to the Colts as well. So a lot of new changes, a lot of new players going to different teams. And one move that I didn't even see is Ellis here, 21 years old, superstar left tackle. Kind of wish I made more of an effort to go get the kid and put a little bit more effort into looking at tackle. Unfortunately, I did not. And here are still some of the players that we have trying to negotiate with: Dalton Schultz, Jackson, and Troy Moody, and others. See that Odell Beckham Jr. is still out there. Not going to target him with only $4 million. Looks like the Jacksonville Jaguars are targeting Tom Brady. And, let's move on to stage 3. As we are now entering stage 3, we got Dalton Schultz and Justin Jackson here, really helping out more of the offensive weaponry. So this is how the roster is looking right now, with Schultz as our new starting tight end, ratings-wise, as well as we get Justin Jackson, who will be pretty much replacing Wayne Gallman in the as the third running back. Really like this move on my end. He brings a little bit more speed. He's not like a power back like Gallman was, but it at least gives us a little bit more speed in different formations that we can do. As we got some 5th-year options, we have our starting right guard Chris here. Obviously, we're going to be giving him this 5th-year option, no questions needed. He is one of our better players. So with the last move that I wanted to make in this final part here, is trying to trade away Kendall here. I was trying to move up to try to get an extra first-round pick by moving off Kendall, and a first and a second and a 5th. But this is the end of part 1 of a 2-part of the offseason. Next time we will be getting into the last bit of free agency, and then into the draft, and then we'll get into year number 3. So please leave a like, Comment down below what you thought I did in the first couple stages of the offseason. I would really like to know your guys' input here, as ultimately we cannot get this trade to work with the first round pick, so I decided to settle. Just trying to get a 4th round pick, trying to get an extra depth draft pick here, and we'll see if that goes through. Please leave a like, comment down below, and subscribe. Thank you guys. We did trade away Kendall. Hope you guys have a great day.